Hey everybody, welcome back to the Week in Horror. This week we're going over February 23rd through the 29th. As always, I've got JL and Eugene with me.
How you doing, everybody?
How's it going?
And this week we got a special guest for you here. All right, this week we also have a special guest for you. The twisted mind behind the Circus of the Dead, Dollboy, and upcoming Cowboys from Hell, director Billy Bloody Bill Pond is joining us today. How you doing, Billy?
Hey, is this NAMBLA Weekly?
Sure is.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Alex forgot to take his medication.
I am tripping balls.
I was like, where am I right now at this moment?
I'm happy to be here because you guys actually gave me homework. That's the first podcast I've been on where I've had homework and had to watch some movies.
Bucky, isn't that the best, though? The best deal? Just, dang, I got to go watch some horror movies.
Right, yeah, that's the worst thing you got to do. That's a good laugh, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's like, goodness, sorry, I can't go out. I have to watch movies.
I've been sitting on the fucking couch all day. I'm working.
Yeah, I'm fucking working. But yes, Alex is totally fangirling out. That's why he's...
I was trying to come up with a way to say Billy Bloody Bill, Billy Bill, and I stuttered.
That's exactly why I had you do the intro.
God, why do you always put me in this position, JL? It's enunciate, red, yellow letter.
Don't sweat it. I'll take it out on my manager about booking me on this damn show.
That motherfucker.
I just picture your manager like on the side of the road as you drive off, like left him behind.
Slap it, face pump.
Yeah, no, it's my grandbaby. She manages me.
Well, we are so excited to hear you. I can't even talk now.
See, it's not me, it's everybody, bro.
Why did I even write a script for this episode?
Seriously though, what's up, Billy? Super excited.
Yes.
I'm very excited. I just got back from the Cult Classic Convention in Bastrop, Texas, so I'm in a horror state of mind. So
Yeah, in Bastrop you should be.
yeah,
That's awesome.
the home of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Sure is.
Fuck yes.
Oh yes.
Did they hold it at the house?
They moved the house out of there. It's in Kingsland now, but they held it at the gas station.
Oh yeah.
Gas station.
Weren't they turning that into like a thing? Weren't they gonna do like
It is. Yeah, it's
like a museum, right?
It's a little museum. They sell barbecue, and you can stay.
You can stay there, yeah.
Yeah, you can stay back behind there in one of their cabins.
That's so cool.
Oh, shit.
That's badass.
I think we're probably gonna have to do an episode from there, guys.
I think we will too. We have to.
Well, let me know when you'll do that one. I'll go down there and camp out too.
Hell yeah.
That'd be cool as shit.
Yeah.
Camping with Week in Horror.
Ooh.
All right,
Ooh.
well, okay.
Yes.
Night in
Jump
horror.
on this. We are so excited to have Billy here as we take on this week's releases in horror history. And be sure to check out our time with Billy on the After Dark segment, which we'll be doing after this episode. That's exclusively for our Patreons. Patreon.com/weekinhorror. So, kicking this off, we have, with our special guest Billy here, this is something that we're all very, very familiar with, and I wanted to kind of jump on before we get started on the movies we watched. Billy, you film predominantly here in Texas.
Yes.
I filmed here in Texas. I know Eugene and I actually have a short film project coming up here, shooting here in Texas. Shooting in Texas, we all have our experiences, and I can honestly say that while the filming is fun and it's all good like this, logistically wise, filming in Texas has always been a bitch for me. Right. It's always been a pain in the ass. It's always been a slog trying to get something done. It seems more difficult to get shit in the can in Texas than it does in any other state I've shot in.
Okay. It's been, I think, the complete opposite for me, I would say. But I live in a different city now. Remember that, because I don't live in Dallas. You know, in Dallas, everybody's doing the same thing. But down here in Odessa, it's like, I know somebody that knows somebody, so they'll shut down a street for me. They'll say, you know, even like that store, we shot in a beer store for like, gosh, it had to be about 6 or 7 nights. And I said, well, how much do you want to charge me for this? They go, don't worry about it. Just lock up when you're done. So strangers turned over their whole store to me for like, 2 weeks. So things are different down here in a smaller town.
Yeah, Odessa's a real tight-knit community down there too.
Yeah. When they're not shooting.
I'm like
when they're
so
not
jealous.
shooting.
I am like so jealous. I really am. Now it's entirely possible because all my stuff has been I've pretty much been Dallas based the entire time. Dallas and the surrounding areas, Dallas, Plano, wherever like this. So that may play into it, because I've been in projects that have shot out of the city, like that have shot down like Midlothian, Waxahachie, and stuff like that. But I've never actually tried to like run my own deal. I've always done projects up in Oklahoma, Louisiana, New Mexico, and it's just been much easier. I guess maybe the more rural aspect plays into it better.
I think it's just they're just more starstruck by being asked. If you go in there with a smile and say what you're doing, they're just more excited about being a part of something like that or helping somebody out. In Dallas, they're probably, it's like LA or something. They're just wanting a paycheck of some kind. Oh, you're going to stand on my sidewalk out here? Yeah, we need a little bit of money and kickback on that or something.
That is true.
Yeah, because coming from the big city and there's so many people who are trying to film here, you know, so many movies trying to get made and everything like that. And so many people are just kind of, they're like, it's hard, especially asking strangers, so in terms of like turning over a store or something like that, where you get that small town community where everybody knows each other. Like turning a store over for like 2 weeks, like on a small budget in Dallas is not even possible unless you were married to the owner.
Right, you're probably right. Yeah, exactly. I started in Dallas. I actually lived in there and come down here to visit my dad in West Texas in '98, and I worked for the city of Dallas before that at Samuel Farm, of all places, where we'd give kids hay rides and teach them about farm living and stuff. But when I come down here, they had a position open at the local TV station for a camera operator. And I said, well, I'll just give it a shot. But I had to leave back then. Now, this was like 97, 98. I was making like $13 an hour for the city of Dallas, which was pretty good back then. But I come down here and took a $5.50 an hour job just to get my foot in the door at a TV station, knowing that it would teach me how to use the camera and, how to edit and all this kind of stuff. Because, back then there was no, there was no phones, first off. Cameras were, kind of the crappy VHS kind of stuff. So just technology was different back then.
Yeah, because you're talking about editing on things like a VHS. So you're talking about like machine editing.
VTRs, yeah. It was way different than nowadays. We take all this stuff for granted nowadays. It's so easy. But back then, you really had to jump through hoops.
Oh yeah, when I got into it, it was pretty much just grabbing the XL2 and just running to wherever we were going to go shoot. Now, I did have a couple of good experiences. I did have to shoot in Plano. I shot a scene out in Plano where somebody allowed us to use their bar. They had like an extended area off that they used for special events. They let us jump in there and film for as long as we wanted, as long as we didn't disturb the actual bar.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think what I'm taking away from this is I don't have enough friends.
There you go. No, it is who you know. Kelly will tell you that too. But down here we have a lot of good friends, and we all know each other. And if somebody, or I'll even sometimes mention on social media, is like, hey, I'm really in need of like a muscle car of a certain kind. And sure enough, somebody will say, hey, I got a friend. And I go, hey, how much will it cost? Hey, how about just a handshake? I said, okay, cool. So that's usually how it works down here.
I love that the South and the
awesome.
Southwest of Texas is still like the Old West,
Oh, it is.
Right. Well, so pretty much the breakdown on that to all of our listeners who catch this. If you're shooting in Texas, if you're a filmmaker in Texas, make friends.
Make friends.
It's
Make
not about
friends
what you know, it's
because-
about who you know.
Make
Yes,
lots of
it is.
friends.
Once again, you heard it from the man himself. He's got movies in the can. He does conventions. He's in the industry. He says, make friends, because without friends, you're not getting shit done.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right. Well, I also want to give a shout out. And I recently came across a guy. I actually spoke with him briefly on social media. His name is Paul Bailey. He's an actor, locally based. And I want to give this cat a shout out because he is currently involved in a campaign. Now, Billy, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to see him.
No, but I want to really bad because you got me intrigued by the whole thing. I want to see what he brings to the table.
On YouTube, he's got this demo reel of himself done up as Freddy Krueger, and he is doing this hard fucking core campaign to try and push to be the new Freddy. And there's actually several videos. He's got the demo reel video, and where it's kind of like a makeup test, and he also has some stuff where he does some lines and he does some improv as in the character. It is fantastic. Number one, whoever they got to work on the makeup on this and do the effects makeup and the costuming is fantastic. It's absolutely perfect. Two, I saw it was a perfect homage to Englund's work to Anglin's body of work. How he made the character. Paul pays homage to that, but he also makes it his own. He does bring his own kind of energy to it. So he's not completely just riffing on Anglin. He's being an actor with it, which is really fucking impressive. And I have to say, I'm sorry, I'm totally lost his name. He was, Rorschach. He was in the new remake.
Oh, he's at Texas
Jackie Earl Haley.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jackie Earl Haley, I love him to death and the things that he does, but he was a shit Freddy. I'm sorry.
that was his writing though. They're doomed from the beginning on that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it didn't stand a chance.
No,
Yeah.
It didn't. I don't think anything can stand a chance because England's such a beloved. See, I see all these people at these conventions. You can't go and replace them. I don't care what you did. You're going to have to do something out of the box like they did with the Joker to make it successful. There's a good, for instance, right there with that.
It's kind of like Doug Bradley in the Hellraiser series.
Oh yeah, that Paul Taylor. Actually, I met him this weekend. He played the new Pinhead, and I asked him. I said, "Why would you take on that role, knowing that you're going to get bashed?" And he goes, "Honestly," he goes, "It's Pinhead. I had to do it." He goes, "I knew it would come with all that territory and stuff. People hating it before it come out." He goes, "But the whole Weinstein thing, it got put on a shelf." And he goes, "I didn't think it would ever get seen, see the light of day or whatever." But then it did. Now he gave me the movie. I haven't seen it yet. But Paul Taylor is a hell of a nice guy, though. I know that for sure. And he was a Pee Wee Herman impersonator.
That's the new. That's a Hellraiser Judgment.
Yes, Hellraiser Judgment.
Yeah,
he does a hell of a Pee Wee.
Now, when I watch that movie, that's what I'm going to be saying.
Pee Wee Herman fucking murdering people.
That's what's funny. And now that that's an interesting segue because Paul Rubens actually wants to do a dark Pee Wee Herman film.
Yeah, I would watch it.
Hell yeah!
I kind of would jump on that bandwagon too.
I would go to the theater and watch it. I would go to the theater and pull my pants down and watch it.
I knew you were going to go there.
Boom! Shots fired.
That Pee Wee Herman.
All right. Well, I just want to give a shout out to Paul Bailey. If you're on YouTube, check out his acting reel. It's Freddy Krueger acting demo reel, or you can just search Paul Bailey. And you'll see the Freddy Krueger images come up. You can see the work that he's done. He's also on Facebook. You can check his stuff out there. A lot of really cool shots. I think he's got something. There's a big campaign behind him to try and get him cast. Now, these campaigns rarely, if ever, work, but he's really, really good. And hopefully, I wish him all the best in that. And yeah, Billy, when you get a chance, check that shit out.
I will watch. I promise I will watch and give some feedback on that one because I'm really curious.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm actually really, really hoping that he gets it. Just later on down the road, just be able to continue the series for
But
the next
what's going to
generation.
happen on that, you guys? It's all going. That goes back to this business. And if you guys are like trying to get there and stuff, I don't want to like shit on your parade, but man, it sucks. And the Hollywood things, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do who's the right fit for something. It'll be Johnny Depp doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
It's not going to be who needs to be doing it. It's going to be somebody that they think can, make the money is what it's going to be.
I'm still utterly butthurt that I'll never get my Robert Englund versus Kane Hodder matchup.
Yeah, I
what
don't
that
think
should
so.
have been.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It's money. It's money and stuff, and it's not going to do it because it's just they just want money is all they want.
That's why we have independent filmmakers.
Yes.
Yes. And,
Make something happen.
Which, that's the way we're going to get the stuff that we want because there's some pretty decent Friday the 13th fan films that are out there.
Yeah.
So fan films are what's going to make it. It's going to keep it alive in the vision that we want and like that.
But here's what I'm saying about that. People ask me about that because would you do a fan film, Billy? I would come more to do a fan film fake trailer before I do a movie because here's my thought. Even if you do a short, you can get it onto an anthology and get it out there. But if you do a fan film, you cannot because you're using somebody else's character and all that. You're never going to be allowed to make money on it legally no matter what you do. So it's like if you put that effort into the fan film, come up with your own character and do that because you got a chance of it hitting. Like Dollboy was my first to come out. And that actually got me on the thing. But it was close to doing a Jason Voorhees thing. If I would have done that, I would have never been where I was if I didn't do my own and get to promote it and sell it.
Now that's an interesting question, and I can get your take on is that now. However, fan films can showcase, doing a fan film like that can showcase talent.
Agreed.
Like what you can do, and you could if you get enough following behind that, you could segue that, right?
What's it going to segue you to? I mean, if you're Ryan Reynolds and you do a Deadpool fan film, then sure. But if you're Billy Pond and you do a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan film, no way. Because, you know, they already got that picked out. It's all about their in-house people or who they know or something. It's just very hard to get that door open for the mainstream stuff. And I'm talking about the mainstream stuff like we want to do, like, you know, the Jason or the Freddy or Michael Myers. It's just, you got to be somebody super big, or at least on the radar, like that Flanagan guy who did Dr. Sleep. I mean, he kind of come out of nowhere, but it's like, you know, a shot in a million, you know, one in a million shot. It's just so hard to get one of those things. So I just kind of gave up on that dream because I know I could fix any franchise, you know, because I know I can, because when I go into these films, I will talk about that in other things when we talk about these other 4 films, but I take away something really positive from every movie I watch, no matter even how bad it is, because you can learn something from everything.
Absolutely.
But what I really do is I can see where I try to figure out where something went wrong or what they could have done to make it, or, you know, make it or break it. So
Definitely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Definitely. So a good take in terms of people out there, filmmakers, in terms of fan film versus original content.
Just don't pour your heart and soul, because I know it means a lot, and I'm not even trying to be that guy, you know, because I was that guy with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I met, you know, I'm hitting 50 this year, and I met Gunnar Hansen in '85, and took Chainsaw Blade to get signed. Yeah. And then I met him again at Frightmare after I made my movie and stuff. So, you know, it was kind of cool doing that, but I told him I'm going to get this franchise someday, and, you know, but now he's gone. But I'm saying, I just don't know that it would happen. And even if I did, what if I had so many hands in it that I'm doomed from the start? You know, like, because Zack Snyder's a bad mofo. And for those movies to be like they were, something's not right. Something doesn't add up, because that's not a Zack Snyder movie, you know? I think that there's just too many hands in the cookie jar.
Here we go.
I think it was Duncan Jones who said who was behind Moon and several other, you know, Mute and several other films that I really enjoy, because I'm a huge World of Warcraft fan, and he did the Warcraft movie, and he just attributed to it's like death from 1,000 cuts.
There you go, exactly. Yeah. You got no control. It's just, but whose name's on it? Your name's on it. They don't have these bigwigs' names and stuff. They're rich anyway, because at the end of the day, it's just going to be about money. That's why indies, to me, and they're rare. I mean, there's some really stinkers out there. There's more stinkers than good ones. But the really ones that like are a breath of fresh air, man, that's what I live for. Just give me a movie like that, and, you know, and something like even Midsommar. That movie just knocked me out of the park. Is it my movie? Like I would make a type of movie like that? No. But it just did something so different to me that it just moved me. And that's what I want to be, you know, when I go to a movie, is to be moved and be entertained.
Definitely.
Absolutely. All right. So let's go ahead and kick this week off. JL, what do we got first?
Oh, yes. We're going to kick this off. We're actually in the kind of the right zone talking about movies. What could we have done better? So we're going to kick this off February 25th, 2005. The movie Cursed.
Ooh.
So this is a werewolf horror that was directed by Wes Craven, written and produced by Kevin Williamson, and a massive cast of pretty much every hot teen that was at the time. It's Christina Ricci, Joshua Jackson, Jesse Eisenberg, Judy Greer was in it, Portia de Rossi was in it, Maya was in it, Shannon Elizabeth was in this, and a huge supporting cast as well. Just, you know, pretty much all these names they just kind of grabbed, and pretty much the film just follows a brother and sister who get attacked by a werewolf, and then werewolf shenanigans kind of take place. It's goofy, it's kooky, it's got a few moments that you know, kind of harken to the werewolf genre, but ultimately the film really didn't play.
Yes.
Yeah, to say the least.
It was supposed to.
It was something.
I know, Billy, this is your first time seeing it, right?
Yes. Well, you know what? I really think I've seen it before, but it was so
He blocked it out.
Yeah, I honestly think that I probably watched it back in the 2000s and just vaguely remember it.
That's kind of how it is, because it doesn't leave an impression. Like, it's not something that you're like, oh yeah, I remember. Like, I had to go and like rewatch it and like, yeah, I think I kind of did see this.
Some of it makes sense.
I mean, Christina Ricci got out of the shower. They didn't show anything, and I said, okay, well, that could have just made the movie probably a lot better there. But did you not watch it now with this whole Weinstein thing with a different take on it? I watch those movies now that Weinstein, was all a part of and stuff, and it just makes me watch them all different, I guess now. Now I feel creepy thinking about the bigger story than actually the movie. And then I said, well, that's a bad movie if I'm thinking about that instead of this, so, yeah.
Right.
That's true, because that means you're not getting, like, engrossed into the movie if you're just thinking about other stuff while watching it.
Well, it's just you're thinking, how can you have this cast and fail?
Well, there was a ton of travesties behind the scenes on this thing.
Yeah, the movie Cursed was very cursed.
Cursed, yes.
I mean, from like right off the
See what you did there?
right off the bat though, like it was postponed for a year. Like it didn't even get released for a year afterwards, just due to the fact that there was so much bullshit going on in the set, and like even one of the cast members was quoted saying something like it was so screwed up. Like we had a lot of fun, but I don't understand what the hell happened, because Weinstein was just not having a lot. He was I want to say complaining. It was probably more just like whining. Weinstein was whining. He was on board in the original cut of the movie, and then like 3/4 of the way through was like, no, I don't like it. We need to change stuff up. And between that and the whole thing having to be re-edited from an R-rated movie to a PG-13.
That I didn't fucking get.
What? No, because they
a werewolf.
They thought
I said that money, you guys. It's all money.
It's all about money. They thought they were going to bring in a lot more
movie?
revenue. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What werewolf movie is rated PG-13?
Well, and like you got a whole bunch of death scenes cut out of it. Like a lot of the good kills, there was a scene where I can't remember the character, but one of them got cut open in the elevator, and they were supposed
Jenny,
to Jenny, they were supposed to show Jenny's like body and stuff all splayed out, but they cut that whole scene out, and they just cut out a lot of the good kills and took away a lot of the gore, which it's a fucking werewolf movie. There's gonna be some fucking gore. Like you're talking about a giant dog ripping people open, so. And then even down to the effects. Rick Baker did the effects on this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they went through at the end and cut all of his shit out and replaced it with CGI, essentially.
I'm saying
with K and B, and I think that's when K and B got their start. Now K and B's real good, but see the CGI stuff, you guys, it was just don't mix the two together.
Especially when you got fucking Rick Baker in there, like
let Rick Baker do Rick Baker.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
No, I mean, we have Rick Baker, who has done so much legendary work, right? You bring him in specifically for his legendary work, and then you go ahead and you cut him out. You go, oh, well, we just do a studio. And the thing is at that time in 2005, CGI was all the new rage, because Star Wars, the prequels were green screen everything. Oh, we can do it with CG. We can do it with CG. We can do it with CGI kind of thing. And so, it's just cheaper. Let's just do this, let's do this, let's do this. And it's like in 2005, a lot of people are throwing out practical effects. And then you get the result and you realize that those effects don't hold up at all.
I would have loved to have seen Baker's work on this.
Seriously, just leave it in there. Don't fucking cut, because they only used about 90% of the actual, like, original script, and they had to like reshoot a mass majority of these like kill scenes and stuff, down to the like Mandy Moore was in this, right?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah,
because like Mandy Moore and a couple of the main characters were having scheduling conflicts by the end of the 2.5 fucking years it took to refilm it, and everybody was just pissed off by the end of it. It sounded like it was a lot of fun to film. Everybody kind of had a good time. There wasn't like much cast issue. They weren't fighting, but then like when it came to production, it was all nobody had any idea what was going on.
And you can't have a movie where you need a solid vision for a movie. Like, I want it to look like this. I want this feel. And this flip-flop back and forth. You're shooting it, you're changing, you're shooting it, you're changing, you're shooting it, you're changing it. So there's, like, no overall vision at all to it. It's just this jumbled mess of ideas that don't relate to each other.
No. And that's where you got to wonder, is because the Weinsteins, apparently, the way I'm understanding this, I mean, if you have a project and you're going to put this thing into motion, and you've signed names, you've got Wes Craven directing this thing, you've got Kevin Williamson who wrote the damn script, and who's also producing, who's also the guy behind it. You got Rick Baker, who signed on for this, saying, yes, I want to do practical werewolves and put them in this film. You got the cast who read the script and said, yes, we all want to be in this. And then to churn out this and to run this thing on a budget, which was probably ballooned somewhere, north of $70 million. Okay, to get this thing happening. And this thing grossed less than 30.
Yeah, 29 million.
Okay, obviously it was the Weinsteins. I'm going to side not just Harvey, but I'm also going to side Bob. It was the both of them at the same time, because I know that they went into this with the vision that they were going to try and revamp the werewolf genre, kind of like they did, or reignite it like they did with Scream in '96.
Right.
Like we reinvigorated the slasher genre, by making it like this, and then they tried to do that with the werewolf genre, and obviously it fell flat on its face. But this is a perfect example, from what I understand, of producers, of why there should be a line of demarcation between the producer and the director. Is that I know the producers of the money, I know the producers are watching the bottom dollar. I know those people are necessary, yes, but there's got to be a line. It just, from my experience, from what I see, in my opinion, people will disagree, that there must be a line of demarcation between the director's creative vision and the producer and what we can do. Okay? There's got to be a point where one doesn't cross the other. Like, the director doesn't tell the producer where to spend the money or what this is going to be. He doesn't tell him what this is going to do. And the producer doesn't come in and say, you shouldn't do that. That's not going to look good.
Yeah.
And
No.
tonight I'm going to pray that my penis grows to be like a porn star penis. But it ain't going to happen. That's what I'm telling you guys. Hey, I'm telling you,
not
those
gonna fucking
producers and those people with the money, man, that's what I'm telling you guys. It's the higher you go up the ladder and the stairs, you're just going to say, it was a lot better down in the basement, man, before anybody was poking at you and prodding. It's just way different. The higher you go up those stairs and stuff, it just sucks. And this is what happens. And that's what happened in the 2000s, Scream was the last of the way movie making was then, and then all of a sudden the CGI stuff started. We can cut some corners here. Who cares? We cut some corners, still make some money. It's just, it all went to hell in the handbasket, that movie.
Yeah.
It's one.
So that's... Okay, go ahead.
And so, one thing, and this is, I'll never understand, is, the producers, they have the script. And my thing is, if you don't trust the director, then why hire them to begin with? If you're going to meddle in a bunch of stuff, it's going to be bad to begin with. So it's to me, at the very least, let the director do his thing, because that way your movie has, the best chance. Because I don't know if any movies are man, the studio got involved and reshoot and all this other kind of stuff, and the studio hated this, and the movie was super successful at the very end. Never heard of that.
No, I mean, you hear about, I was watching Dirty Dancing and stuff, that the movies that made us. Not that I just sit around watching Dirty Dancing, don't get the wrong idea, guys.
Sure, okay, yeah.
But I'm saying...
I had the time of my life.
But people fight, and sometimes you get lightning in a bottle, but sometimes you get an empty bottle like they did with Cursed. So it's just, sometimes it does. Sometimes it works good. My producer told me not to film certain scenes in my movie, but I did, and I figured it'd be easier to beg for forgiveness later than to ask for permission. So you just take those chances sometimes. But ultimately, I was my own producer, so I can't fight with myself. But I think it's just that it's like you hear in the music industry and stuff, if somebody says, well, no, you need to change your clothes to this, or you need to be a doo-wop sound or something. I mean, sometimes dumbasses just think they know something and they don't, these producers, and it just ruins something. So, I mean, no offense, I don't think the Weinsteins had too much intelligence, because they got themselves in trouble like they did and run their company, but we'll see what the future holds up with him and his Walker right now.
Yeah.
It just really sucked that they had so many big names on this, and Miramax and Weinstein came in and were like, no, we're going to meddle around in some shit that you guys know what you're doing, but fuck it up.
That's why I think Eugene's got the point right there, is because you take a movie like Scream, where Scream, they Dimension obviously gave Wes and Kevin carte blanche on that film.
Uh-huh.
So you could see Wes was all over it. Kevin's vision was, everything was intact. Everyone loved working on that movie. It was tight, it was clean, and it did exactly what they wanted it to do, because they knew that. And then you take them, and then so you have a film like that. Then you have Deadpool over at Fox, because Fox was like red light, and then finally Ryan Reynolds just takes the fucking reins and says, no, this is going to fucking happen. Okay? Whether you like it or not, this is going to happen. And when Fox finally relented and said, "Fine, do your fucking movie," which they did. They begrudgingly. This is what's so fucking sad. Fox begrudgingly allowed Ryan Reynolds and T.J. Miller to do that movie, and then at that point, before Joker, the highest-grossing R-rated comic book film ever made.
Yeah,
in the history of film, and it's like you couldn't, 20th Century Fox, you couldn't get the fuck out of your way for 10 goddamn after 3 failed Fantastic Four movies, okay, and an abysmal X-Men franchise. You couldn't get the fuck out of your own way to let one dude do a fucking movie that's funny. I mean, come on.
Because they don't. Fox doesn't like making money.
But okay, now let's get back on track now. What happened on part 2? Was it as good as part 1? No.
I thought, part 2 was as fantastic.
I thought it was a little bit forced. It just didn't have the same feel of rawness and stuff. I don't know. The kids liked it. Like my teenager stepkid liked it, loved it. Even more than the first one. But it just didn't seem as edgy. It seemed like they tried to cut a couple of cuss words here or there just to make it safe. And then they ended up putting out a PG-13 cut. Remember?
Well, I'll say, there's a PG-13 cut, there's the R cut, and then there's the unrated cut. And the unrated cut is fucking hysterical.
Oh, it's great.
Oh, yeah. And even the one with the PG-13, that's the one with Fred Savage.
Yes.
Yes, okay, that one was actually funny as shit too. But yeah, so this whole conversation, reminds me, brings us to our kind of our call to action. I want to know from the audience: could a film like this have been saved? Okay, could this have happened if the Weinsteins had kept their their unmentionables out of this movie? Okay. And allowed Wes Craven, God rest him, God rest in peace, Wes Craven, Kevin Williamson, a phenomenally talented cast, a legendary effects artist. If they had just let them make the fucking movie,
yeah,
could this movie have been saved? I believe it could have.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
absolutely. I want to know what the audience thinks, and let us know. Did you even like the movie? Some people? I know some people liked it. Some people dug it. Some people watch it just because Christina Ricci's hot as shit.
Yes, she is.
She is. So,
sorry, babe.
I'd like to know what the audience thinks. So we'll let them know like that. Alex, what do we have next?
Hey, we're moving on to February 26th, 1920, which makes this movie 100 years old. We're talking about The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, literally going to be 100 years old on the 26th.
God,
I think this is the oldest. I think that's the oldest movie we've covered.
This is the oldest film we've covered, yeah.
Absolutely. This is directed by Robert Wien, written by Carl Mayer and Hans Janowitz. There's a lot of Germans in
Holy
this movie.
shit, you got that right.
I am very European white.
How many times did you practice that?
Actually, none. I wrote it down and I never even thought about the name in my head. Werner Krause plays Dr. Caligari. Conrad Veidt is I see it, and I'm going to fuck this up. I don't know I think it's just Caesar or Caesar. I don't know how you pronounce it in the...
Right, since they never said it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to go with just Caesar.
Yeah. I'll go with that.
Yeah, sure.
They can't complain about it, so...
It could have stemmed from a lot of stuff. But, this is a silent film, obviously, silent horror, 1920s, big deal back then. And it follows a fair where Dr. Caligari comes in with his Caesar and wakes him up after being asleep for, I think it was 25 years. And this guy can tell the future, and then these murders start happening. And I love watching this movie. And like I was telling you guys earlier, I rewatched this on 2 times speed. It was a lot of fun to watch the police run around because there was like 18 of them crammed on this tiny set. And 2 times. It was great. But this is my first silent film that I ever saw way back when, even before like Nosferatu and stuff. But I love this movie.
It's amazing, and Roger Ebert quotes this as the first true horror film, and when a lot of people believe that, because there could have been stuff made prior to it, but we've lost about 80% of all silent films, and we actually have this one, but this is like the true, like, all horror films ever made stem from this one.
I could agree. I could agree with that completely. And like you said, there was some before that. There was stuff that went back into like the 1800s that was like short like real, 6 or 8 minute short films. But like you said, we've lost a lot of the silent films. This being one of the few that you can still get a hold of.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I totally dug it. Now, I wanted to bring up this point about it. If you think about it, every one of you guys right there, everybody listening, everybody's got better technology in their phone than they had on this entire film while they were making it. You've got more, like, better equipment than they had when they were making this film. So that just totally blows my mind that they could even done this with what they had back then and stuff. And I was thinking about that, too, about all the ones that were lost, and I was thinking, it inspires me. It'd be fun to find those stories and just maybe make one just out of tribute to one of those or something someday and just make that, because it seemed like it would be a lot of fun. And if you make movies, you know how much of a pain in the ass audio is on the set.
You're right.
And that
You could eliminate that whole aspect.
Big time. Do y'all know, too, it's like to hire a cinematographer is actually cheaper than an audio person.
Oh, really?
A sound person, yep, on the set. It is way cheaper, like half the price.
I could imagine.
That's an interesting idea. You could actually, you like, if you wanted to do something, you could actually just shoot that on a stage, like in a theater.
Yeah.
Well, no, you could still make it like you got. You could still, like, take Night of the Living Dead and take all the words out of it. I mean, it could all still be done. It was, to me, is like, that's what was cool about you guys making me do this, is I had to go watch this movie. And I was thinking, oh, god dang, like, watch some stupid silent film. But then I thought, I learned so much from it. And I was watching those wipes, like the little circle wipe that would squeeze black. And then it would pop out in another place. I said, man, that's so neat, And Star Wars kind of borrows a little bit of that, too, from back then. But it actually influenced me or inspired me a lot and just helped me out a bunch, too. Just how they do it. Now, the weird things about it was the over make-upping and stuff, like with the eyeshadow and stuff.
They had some heavy eyes.
Yeah, and then when they were talking to each other, they would get a little bit into each other's personal space. And I was thinking, ain't nobody going to get that damn close to you when they talk. I'd ask them to step back a little bit. So that was kind of, the overacting part of it was kind of, funny and stuff. But it was totally fun to watch. And I thought, man, this was actually, I need to make it a point to watch more of these kind of movies.
Hell yeah.
I think that was the heavy influence of German expressionism that played into that type of acting. Just the big gestures and big eyes and kind of like, trying to emote extreme, because German expressionism had its ties into the theater, and you had to be big on the theater in order so everybody in the audience could see you.
Right. Overly done. Yeah, but it was
exactly.
Cool.
Which namely is the inspiration, which is what Nick Cage's training is in.
Yes, we can tell.
Yes.
Heavy eyes and big face.
He is big on the German expressionism. That's where he gets his whole the foundation of his entire approach is German expressionism.
I mean, it works. It was really cool. I think what I really like about this movie is it's so early, and like you said, coming off of the stage, it's such an early movie, and you can tell that they're trying really hard to like make this motion picture, and they're pushing real hard for it. You can tell they want to be there. And then they have little cool, like you said, the over-exaggerating, like the scene after she gets kidnapped, and then they bring her back and they're sitting in the chair. And they're like, Dr. Caligari was sleeping or whatever, and they all leave. And they like, the girl and the guy that's standing behind the chair, like, look at each other all ominously, but they're like half an inch from each other. And, like, it was almost uncomfortable, but they stuck it out. Like, they didn't stutter. They knew what they were doing. They went for it. And they were like all so into it that I thought that made it like it was passionate, and it was so early that it was cool to see that kind of passion.
Yeah, do you think that somebody was sitting there and they say, you guys, what we're doing now, somebody's going to be sitting around on something talking about this 100 years later.
No shit.
You mark my word. Or did they say, hey, is it lunchtime yet?
See, that's an interesting take, because these are theater actors who are transitioning to film. But this is the first time, okay? This wasn't like, I'm a thespian, I'm trying like this, and I'm going to move into movies. It's like, no, these were like legitimate professional theater actors, and all of a sudden this new medium comes along. And so they have nothing to gauge beyond, before that. Like, they have no other film performances to kind of steal from or be inspired by. They are setting the bar right there.
Did you, like, I was thinking too, is like if you guys like had to figure out stuff, being indie filmmakers and all, sometimes you got to kind of, rob Peter to pay Paul. But
oh yeah,
like they had record players and albums back there, right? Why not record it on an album and then sync it up with the film and play it? Why not have somebody talk do it on the record and record it on a record or something. I still didn't understand that either. Like, how come they just stuck with silence so long that they couldn't figure this audio thing out?
Yeah, because it was, even sound as a whole was still new, because you didn't really get microphones have been around even when this film was made about 20 or 30 years.
Right.
Kind of thing. And like, you would go in and you would pass out some sheet music to your, pianist who's sitting in a theater and play the piano while you're like watching the film. But I don't think there was a way that somebody could like start the film and then hit the play button on a record player at the same time. Because if you're off a little bit.
I think 30 years before this, this is 20 years like this. It wasn't just 30 years before this that that theatrical productions were still utilizing basically live bands or orchestras.
Yeah,
that was how they did. Everything had to be live on that one, and that's only 30 years later they're putting this stuff on film. So, and I know there was a time towards the end, around the 1900s, where things that were put up on film actually had live bands with them, like that accompanied the movie, and everybody had to go to one place to see the movie, and that they would hire a small group to do the music that would accompany the film, and they would just do it over and over and over and over again, this small segment.
So is these people that did this music on this one, how many years do you think it was actually the actual movie actually done?
Huh.
You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't during the same production. Like, where did they record this music from?
No, I figured a lot of that. Although no, a lot of people use classical music because they're just not rights to it at all. And then you would have some people that would actually write music specifically for the film. You would just send out sheet music.
Send out sheet music, but I just wonder whether they said, "Hey, let's put this with this movie, so we could put it out on VHS."
Okay.
Yeah.
50 years later.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Hey, this is all before the Great Depression. We were still figuring shit out. I think we kind of got into it after that.
This was just barely after World War One.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was World War One ended in 1918, and so a lot of the actors and stuff, a lot of the actors and the filmmakers were actually like World War One veterans and stuff like that. And one of the things about the film is that it actually symbolizes the German war authority at the time, because they were sending everybody to the front line. Everybody. You were an able-bodied male, or even semi-able-bodied male, you would send to the front line, and you were basically had to do what you were told, and then you would go do these horrific things time and time and time again, and what seemed like no end, because unlike World War II, where we land on the beach and we kind of push forward and yay, we win, this was like, you would go up, you would get out of your trench, run across no man's land, right? And then 80% of you were killed. You would take that trench, and then the next day, the enemy would charge no man's land, take your trench, you retreat back to your original trench, people would die along the way, and then you did that for 4 years. Like, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, with bodies and death mounting up constantly, and no gain.
Like, that's if you weren't shot by the Red Baron.
Yeah, that's if you weren't shot by the Red Baron.
Could you imagine the first time you were out there and you heard a fucking machine gun? I would have been like, nope, dude, I'm going home.
Like, nope.
Fuck that. Doop. Nope. Nope.
And one thing is when World War I came out, there wasn't war movies. There wasn't like a Saving Private Ryan or a Black Hawk Down where you can go like, oh, okay, this is kind of what war was like. There hasn't been a war in like 40 years before that point.
Or before that, you lined up next to each other and shot each other.
And shot each other. So people were like, oh, it's going to be a great adventure. It's going to be real fun. It's going to be this. And then the guy next to you gets his head blown off and you're like, shit, I made a mistake.
You don't think they played Call of Duty before they went?
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
Of course, Call of Duty, yeah.
Call of Duty's been around since the dawn of time. So.
And I think the writers on this, and from their experiences World War One, pretty much the creative minds that were behind this, trying to translate their experiences. I would obviously we can, with the visual mediums improved as they are today with war films and with video games, stuff like this, we can kind of grasp it. But this obviously the black and white format and the lack of real the lack of like special effects or anything of that nature, where you're just doing basic camera trickery, but playing with light and playing with shadow.
Yeah.
It allows for a more what I took as a poetic kind of detailing of their emotions through World War I and the things that the horrors that they experienced, and knowing that going in, the film, you can feel an almost catharsis to it because it's so stark. Everything is just the shadows are black, okay, they're deep, and the light is either big or it's just different shades, but it's so different, and it's it's more of an emotional experience really, because the poetry of it you can interpret in your own way. You can take your own kind of emotions from it because there's no words, there's no dialogue. It's just the title screens. You're literally reading a book and seeing images that normally might have been in your head.
And I think that's kind of where a lot of like the art direction comes from, is they experience all these horrible things in war, and then they go back home and no one understands. You can't go home into your family and tell them stories of what it was like on the front line. And so and there wasn't like the counseling and all this other kind of stuff and PTSD services that we have today. It just wasn't there at the time. So I think a lot of them were taking those raw emotions, the nightmares, the horrible imagery that they have in their head, and trying to put it on a medium.
You think about that. You think about that term because in World War II. I don't even know if they called it anything. Was it called shell shock back then, or did that not come around until World War II?
No, it was called shell shock back then.
So shell shock. Okay, that right there, the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. There are moments within that I say are the visual representation of feeling shell shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just that's got to be what that is like. Of what we now know is post-traumatic stress disorder. So, and I think that is the perfect. This is the perfect example of the unique powers of silent film and silent horror, is that you can convey things in a way that the imagination, you don't take anything away from the imagination. Your imagination still plays and gets an opportunity to play even more than your films nowadays. Nowadays, it's all about hitting every single one of your senses. Whereas in these days, in 1920, and even before that, and a little bit after that, it was just a visual sensation. Okay, there was no sound. You had to fill in the blanks. You filled in the sounds. Your imagination was at work. You put the colors in your mind as to how it allowed your brain to interact with the film more. Which I think is why they are why films like this are so enduring. Why even now, Nosferatu, still one of the most powerful vampire films ever made.
Oh yeah, still scary.
It still
images.
Gets me.
Yeah.
It still gets me. That whole shot, him going up the stairs, the shadow like this.
The shadow on the stairs, yeah.
Yeah, it still gets me because you're filling in the blanks yourself, that's why I love silent film. I love silent horror film. The idea that there was a time when they showed a film of a train coming at the screen. Do you remember that? You've seen the video clips of that?
Yeah.
Okay? The train is rushing at the camera, and people dove out of the way because they thought the train was going to come through the fucking theater.
Oh, like people viewing it dove out of the way.
Exactly. The people viewing it, like you say, here's this train coming up the track, and it's coming straight at the camera. Okay? And people in their seats dove out of the way, thinking the fucking thing was going to come through the theater itself.
Yeah,
and you just can't get that nowadays.
You can't, because at that time, everything people saw at the time was live, and the thought that you could see something and play it for somebody else at a later date was revolutionary.
Yeah.
Or the great train robbery, when he pulls the gun and he fires at the camera.
Iconic shot too.
Yes, like the dude just whips out the gun and boom, fires at the camera. That freaked people out because they're hearing the gunshot in their head.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, you gotta be good.
Stuff.
You gotta be good to make a silent picture. Period. And actually, Billy, you brought up something earlier that I actually want to ask the audience. Do you think you could take a silent movie and remake it today? And not even necessarily remake it. Could you do could you do a silent film nowadays? I mean, we've seen. I think we've all talked about Hush before, not necessarily
Place.
along that, that type.
Yeah,
but can you go back to this style? Could you do something
Yeah, I think
in
so.
this style
I mean,
now?
people are getting so artsy right now, man. There's some stuff that come out really good last year, like I said, that Midsummer and stuff, and even the Lighthouse and stuff. I mean, they're and I seen one too called damn it, the bird title, Nightingale, and it was actually like the 4x7 TV thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I was thinking, so they're doing some pretty, imaginative things. So eventually somebody's going to stumble on that, and that's going to be the next big thing is silent films again.
I think it would be a great
Interesting.
homage and also a great, I guess, new old genre. I think it would be good to get people engaged in films like that again, to have to actually start thinking about it.
Hell yeah.
Just to create that new theater experience. Kind of
exactly.
thing. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you got all these, like you were talking about Johnny Depp earlier, you got all these older actors and stuff are going to be getting pushed out, or, they're going to be getting up in age where they're not going to be able to do all these movies anymore. You got this new wave of these fucking millennials coming in, and I think they might be able...
what they're doing? They got James Dean coming out of retirement now. They're doing CGI on an actor's face.
That just blows my mind.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Give somebody else a fucking chance.
Yeah, it's like
James Dean is great, but dude, you had your fucking run.
Let somebody new come in.
I can see that. I can see them do it. This is how you get cursed movies. The Ghost of James Dean.
Oh, hey, there you go.
James Dean and Marilyn Monroe and Humphrey Bogart all in the same film.
Now let's talk
Well, there went my career.
about Jimmy Dean, and I'll be all happy.
Fuck, I want some sausage.
Giggity.
Yeah, you can take that, interpret it however the fuck you want. Anyways, that's my question to the audience. Seriously, do you think we could pull off like a silent film, like back in that same style? Do you think we could do that?
Will it be a box office success now if it was good enough? Is what?
I mean, Miramax would probably get their fucking fingers in there, but
The H.P. Lovecraft Society actually did two. They did two. And one of them was the Call of Cthulhu.
Was it good?
And that was a straight up silent film. Now I think they did that in 2012.
Okay.
I'm guessing. I don't have the number. I think it was 2012. But it was a legit silent film. Call of Cthulhu, and they read black and white, straight up title cards, everything, and it was actually quite brilliant. Now I think it translated well because it's Lovecraft. It's very, very niche. I'm a big Lovecraft fan. I write Lovecraft, I write Lovecraftian horror. So in that sense, it kind of played to me. Maybe it was because it was so niche, but I believe it showed that it can work. And if you have a bit more mainstream idea, as far as that goes, I think that would play very, very well. But I would like to know what the audience thinks as well.
yeah, absolutely. I think they've burned out kind of all the film styles, between like the 2005, and we were talking about Cursed, from about there until it kind of died off around 2014. There was like no real good, but now we're getting into some weird stuff. So I mean, hey, fuck it. Let's do that. Maybe throw it into an anthology somewhere, see all sorts of new stuff.
H.P. Lovecraft is great, but he's no H.R. Puffin stuff.
The thing of my nightmares.
Hot damn. This is turning into a Mr. Fister situation. Puffin stuff, Mr. Fister.
All right, Eugene, what do we got next?
Moving on.
Oh man, we got a movie that I grew up with. Definitely a fun film. Saw this a long time ago, and it is actually the third installment of the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Came out February 27th, 1987, and that is Dream Warriors. Right.
Oh, I fucking love this movie.
I love this movie. This was definitely like, I actually saw this one before I saw the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Right.
Oh, that's an interesting jump.
Yeah, I heard of the character Freddy Krueger, but this was just the first one I get my hands on, kind of thing. But it was directed by Chuck Russell, right? Written by Wes Craven and Frank Darabont, and also Chuck Russell, right? And it stars Heather Langenkamp, yeah. Patricia Arquette, right? A very, very young Lawrence Fishburne. Right.
And this was Patricia Arquette's first movie.
Yeah, it was her first movie.
First of many.
And then obviously, the great Robert Englund, because, it's Nightmare on Elm Street kind of thing. And it actually starts taking place where you have Kristen, the character, falls asleep, right? And, all of a sudden she's getting chased by Freddy Krueger, right? She wakes up and she's cutting herself, bleeding. So they take her to the psych ward, right? Where she meets basically the rest of the Dream Warriors that all have like different abilities and stuff like that when fighting the dream. And of course, the intern therapist, right? The great Nancy Thompson herself kind of thing, comes in. And so they basically like do battle against Freddy Krueger.
They team up and kick the shit out of him. Fucking for sure.
There were some solid ones, yes.
The original Avengers.
What a shit show for Freddy.
Oh yeah.
Well, and I guess you guys are younger than me, but I was 17 when this came out, and I remember going to see it in the theaters. After I saw Elm Street in the theaters too, as a really young kid, which scared the crap out of me when I was younger. But by the time I was 17, I think I went on a date or something other, and it was okay for the time and stuff like that. Watching it now was a little different. I mean, it could have been a home run or nothing. It goes back to the Stephen King stuff for me. It's like I love Wes Craven and Stephen King and all that kind of stuff, but it seems like somewhere like cheese sneaks in. Things get a little nacho-y.
I like that term, nacho-y.
The picking up the film, because the first one was such a success, was a runaway success, and then
rightfully so. It was
when
a great film.
When they came in for the sequel did not play well at all, and I think it was such a different vein than the first film, with Krueger taking over the guy's body and then kind of channeling through him, and it was weird. There was a lot of homoerotic tones, a lot of weirdness there, and so it kind of went out of left field, which I kind of dug it. I still like Freddy's Revenge. It's not terrible, but they definitely took the bull by the horns and kind of went left field with it. But then they realized that's really not going to go. It made money, but that's only because people knew the name of Nightmare on Elm Street. So they pulled back, and I think they went with what they knew, with what they knew worked, and that was focusing on the dream states, focusing in the dream world, getting people in there, and then doing something new with Nancy, bringing up the kids who are all in the insane asylum to try and teach them how to control their dreams and take the fight to him, because nobody had really done that before. Is take the fight straight to Krueger. So, and I think it was just a salvaging effort. They tried to they were salvaging the character from the debacle that was part 2.
That was
they
two.
didn't want, yeah. So, and that's why it was kind of a pullback to what worked, to the thing that this is what worked. The dream sequences are what worked. Freddy being the silly shit that Robert Englund says, that that works. Nancy, because she wasn't in the second one, she was in the third one. So Nancy works. So we're just bringing back everything and kind of starting from scratch and doing something a little bit new, led to all the
John Saxon works.
Yeah. And that's why we're going to go back and do the dream fighting sequences. And because we didn't really get a whole ton of that in the first one, let's expound upon that, because the whole thing, and that kind of became a staple of the franchise from that point on.
That whole fighting in the dream thing was super cool, and they brought that in. And you guys were all alive when this came out. I was not, so I didn't even see this until it wasn't even supposed to be a bash. You said you were 17 when it came out. I wasn't even born, so I didn't see it for probably 16 or 17 years after that, at least.
That's when I made you.
3 years
Billy,
after that.
Bill,
God,
you have the dubious honor of being the oldest person we've had on the show. You are finally. I am not the oldest person on the show.
Not mentally.
JL is kind of butthurt because I always give him shit about his age, because we're something like 25 years up. No, I'm just kidding.
No, hey, I used to be concerned about age until that cancer almost killed me, and that I don't give a shit now, man. If I'm alive, I'm cool.
That's that's
hell yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate that you had to go through that to see that, but yeah, age is just a fucking number. It doesn't matter. You're alive.
So since we jumped on it, and this is such an iconic film, but I kind of want to get everybody's take. So, favorite dream fighting sequence. So, Eugene, what was your favorite dream fighting sequence?
Probably the one. Well, the one that pops in my head is the one where she's in the bedroom and Freddy's head becomes super big, and she's like, and he's like basically trying to swallow her whole, kind of thing.
What? Did I see the same movie? Where he's the big snake.
Yeah, he's a big
Yes.
snake. That one.
Yeah, he's got the big giant.
Big giant snake.
If you,
Alex, what was your? What
if
was
you
your
go look
favorite,
for, if you go through like images of on like Google or something, it shows what's her face with the big giant Freddy head, like she's just like smiling at the camera though, like yeah, it was terrifying during the movie, but
Yeah, it's funny now, but not when I saw it.
Alex, what was your favorite
I
fight
guess,
sequence?
I don't know if I had to go through. See, I thought I guess we'll go with not Nancy's death. When was it Nancy who died? Who's the blonde? I can't remember the blonde chick's name. The younger blonde chick.
Well, you're talking about the
Patricia Arquette?
Patricia Arquette was blonde, but there was another girl that was
The
blonde.
primetime chick.
Yes,
Prime
the one
time,
with the primetime
bitch.
chick.
That was a great scene too, though. Not Nancy was the goth one, right?
No, Nancy's
No.
the intern.
Yeah,
The hero.
The brown curly hair, right?
yes.
Yes.
I got
The
all
older
the names fucking backwards now. I'm playing off of.
You're talking about the one with the switchblades. That
Yeah.
had the drug problem. Yeah.
Well,
Yes, the goth punk chick.
yeah, because she gets fucking murdered too.
Well, they all fucking did.
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
they died.
Except for what's her face? At the end, I'm thinking about the fight sequence at the end where Nancy gets fucking stabbed, and then she stabs him, and then like the jocks get locked out of the room, and then I don't know. I thought that was a really cool scene. I don't know if it was like my favorite kill in the whole movie, but the whole scene, she's all sad, and they finally fucking fucked him up. But then at the end of everything, like the two jocks like bust the door down off the hinges, which is totally impractical. The thing just falls over like it's been there for 800 years. I thought that whole scene was pretty cool. I guess I remember that one the most because it was at the end.
What about you, JL? Which one was your favorite?
Oh, I have to say, as far as the fighting technique, I love the wizard kid
He's awesome.
because he was paralyzed, but he could walk in the dream.
Kick ass in the dreams.
Yeah, he could kick ass in the dream, and that's why the crazy spiked out nasty wheelchair.
Yeah.
That's why, because Freddy always uses your greatest fears against you like that, or your emotions against you, and so that was like kind of. But getting that opportunity just kind of I always thought was cool is like, you're paralyzed for life, but in your dreams you're free. That whole kind of thing. But then he used that against you. But I always dug that. Plus, I'm a role playing fan like that. You blasting Freddy with magic, even though it didn't do shit, and the kid got smoked. But that was my favorite out of all of them.
It did have some great creative kills though.
Yes.
It really did. Like pulling the veins out of the one kid.
Oh, the puppetry.
God, Jesus, yeah, that was fucked up. I
Yeah,
forgot
the whole
about that.
marionette puppet part kind of thing.
I don't know if that beats "Welcome to Primetime, bitch."
Welcome to prime time, bitch.
Here's your big break.
Well, you know what I'm going to say, because I was 17 when I saw it. It's going to be the kid that didn't talk in the naked nurse.
The sexy nurse scene.
Yeah. Yeah. That was pretty awesome when I was 17. I think I rubbed one out about that later on that night.
Oh, shit. You forget the rest of the fucking movie. You're just waiting to get home. Fucking spank bank that one.
Put that in the spank bank.
Put that one right there. That movie was so cool though. I really like how they went from the second one and then fucking pulled it all back together in this third one, and then just seeing what because then it. Okay, so like I was reading trivia on this one. Did you know this was the only movie out of the 6 that didn't start with a nightmare? So they had gone completely different on this one than the first two.
Oh no shit! Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it didn't start out in a nightmare scene, and that was even down to the Kincaid, played by Ken Sagos. When he went to audition for this, like they went into audition, it was raining. Auditions went late. He'd been sitting there for hours, so when he finally got in to talk to Chuck Russell's like, just do whatever you want. And Sagos was like so pissed off, he's just like, fuck you, and started screaming and yelling at him. And Chuck Russell was like, you're fucking hired.
Damn.
He was fucking just feeling the energy. It had nothing to do with like, oh, is this guy a good actor? The dude came in, cussed him out, and he's like, I fucking like your energy, bro. Vibe check right here. Let's go.
Nice.
Oh man, that is awesome. And so this is actually what we'd like the audience to know, right? Let us know in the comments below, which warrior was your favorite warrior, kind of thing. They all brought something special, brought something unique, and even though most of them got killed anyway, still.
But they did a fantastic job doing it.
They did. The practical effects in the movie are like amazing. But yeah, let us know.
Hey, do y'all remember the mud stomping? No, that wasn't very amazing, but where she was like stuck in mud and he was coming, it just looked like somebody lifting their feet up and down like she's supposed to be running and stuff. I was watching that today saying they couldn't have pulled that off a little bit better even in the
80s. All right, JL.
Fuck, we've only got 6 minutes to fucking change this or shoot this scene. Figure it out. Oh, run in place.
That's good. We'll keep it.
All right, good, cool. Moving on.
All right, JL, what do we got next?
All right, we're going to wrap up our films with a pretty brutal one. February 29th, 1980. Don't Answer the Phone.
Ooh, man, that movie's brutal.
That's what I labeled my ex-wife in my phone list.
Don't answer it. But yes, a brutal little film. Directed by Robert Hammer and written by Michael D. Castle and Robert Hammer. And starring James Westmoreland, Denise Gallick, and Nicholas Worth. What to say about this?
So many things.
Don't Answer the Phone. Rough little film about labeled one of the infamous video nasties of the 80s during the video nasty scare. But it pretty much follows a former Vietnam vet, and he's kind of a weird bodybuilder, porno photographer. Anyway, he's a weird, really fucked up dude. As he carries out a series of murders and weird religious ritual, and sexually abusing dead bodies. A graphic film of some horrendous violence. Definitely one of the more intriguing sexploitation and splatter films available in the 80s. That was kind of the trend, during the big slasher era. A unique watch in the vein of like Maniac.
Mm-hmm.
Maniac.
This was another one I rubbed one off to just last night.
Oh my God.
Here, I got a point about this one though. Is it's like,
choke on it, bitch, choke on it.
I know it had like the psychiatrist on the on the thing, but it's like the Don't Answer the Phone was kind of. It's like they could have called it something else, and it might have made a little more. That title kind of doesn't fit, except for just being a neat sounding title.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So, but it really pushed the envelope. But like even putting a coin in the stocking and stuff like that, and choking out of all the 4 films, I think I love this one the most because this hits more like my stuff, I guess. Kind of where I'm at. I guess I was raised in the since I'm so old, I was born in 1970, but as a kid you had 3 or 4 TV stations or whatever, and then video come out in the early 80s and I'd watch anything. My mom never stopped, so it's like this was the kind of stuff that I watched and kind of shaped my filmmaking career. This, Torso, The Shining, Halloween, Chainsaw Massacre. So I really love this one, and it's really worth mentioning that Nicholas Worth was like really good in this movie. Like I saw him and it just made me happy, like how good he was doing in this movie, like choking that call girl when she called and stuff like that, and he was like naked in the bed kind of getting off on it. I dug it.
For all the little things that he did, because he's pretty much got a body of work that's pretty much a lot of like small stuff, but he took the reins on this one and went full bore, and I got to give it to him. That's an intimidating cat.
Oh yeah. Very, very intimidating, and obviously that that's why he was able to play the part in it. But I like how you bring it back. Like at the time, I remember watching this, and it felt like I was breaking the rules, kind of thing.
Yes, very taboo.
It was a kind of thing because growing up, my parents were gone and they're working a lot and stuff like that. So it was just a matter of like. I watched movies constantly growing up. And so it'd be like okay, let me, sneak this into the VCR. And then, mom would go to work or something. Then I would go watch it and be, scarred or whatever kind of thing like that. But I was like, oh my God.
scarred or turned on, and I don't know, it rubbed one out. I felt bad about it, but it felt so good.
It flip-flop out every 5 minutes.
It's so wildly intense. That whole sequence when he's got he's got the I think it's the wife tied up in a house, and he's fucking just terrorized her. He has that line where he's like, "Shut up or I'll tear your tit off."
Yeah.
But when he's ranting and raving about his childhood and weird shit, and just like kind of like stream of consciousness, insanity. I mean, the cat just went there and just like kept that level of just off kilter just intensity. Then you had just the bumbling detectives. Was it Hatcher and McCabe? Yeah, those two idiots. But then you got like the final line when McCabe is like "Adios, creep" and shit like that. I mean, it was classic fare. That I mean, there's a reason why this thing was a video nasty. And I think it was a formula that it and many other video nasties met.
Video nasties.
The video nasty man. It's so weird.
Freaking UK flipping out about censorship.
Well, that's what so and so was saying a while ago about that though. Is you felt it's taboo watching. You felt weird watching it. Now I don't because it's on every movie now. But it was a good movie, and that's the one I was most proud of watching you guys sent because it actually kind of stuck with me pretty good. So I thought it was very underrated, and I'm glad I got to watch it.
Good, no, it was an awesome movie. God, but yeah, those video nasties and the public concern in the 80s. And just to shoot this off, the video nasties, it happened, I think it was in 1982 in the UK. People started getting a little freaked out about some of these, like, because people were going fucking crazy with these cannibal movies and borderline snuff films that the UK was like, hey, we can't do this. So then they scheduled all these movies into these 3 schedules, and you can't show them. And if you're in possession of these movies, at one point they were so pissed off that you could get jail time if you had just had screenshots from these movies in your possession. And then
I know there were a few that actually got investigated because
fucking Cannibal Holocaust was one of those.
Yep.
The effects were getting so good that some people believe that people were actually dying in these movies.
In Cannibal Holocaust, they had to actually bring one of the actors in to see like a judge or an official to be like, look, I'm here, I'm not dead, it was all fake. And then there was a trilogy, and I couldn't find it on the internet. Something Lotus or Flower or something, but
Flowers,
the Flowers,
yep.
And those movies too. People were investigated. Police were brought in to investigate to make sure that these people are still actually alive because they made them so. And and they put those in like the Schedule 1, like the worst ones, and then it goes up to like Schedule 3 where it's like now would be a PG-13 fucking movie. But we've even talked about some of them. I Spit on Your Grave's in there. The Evil Dead is on that list. The Toolbox Murders, but that was a fucked up movie.
I think Last House on the Left too.
Last House on the Left. Dawn of the Dead was on there. Obviously Cannibal Holocaust, Cannibal Apocalypse, Snuff. That was the Toy Story 3. There was a movie called Snuff though. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. That was kind of the first movie that I ever saw along the lines of being a video nasty, one that made you fucking kind of sick. But that was like, obviously about snuff films. And I was watching it and I was like, are they actually killing these people? Because it looked so fucking real. But yeah, so the UK had just an absolute panic attack about these movies and what it was going to do to people. And like The Exorcist was on there and stuff. They just started throwing movies in there and being like, But,
anything that pretty much anyone in a position of power found offensive.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
And that was the thing too. Is I went to the UK in 2005, and the one thing that I did notice, super ironically, the background on my other computer is now Big Ben in London. It just switched over when I said UK. That was weird. But
they're listening.
I know. So I was there, and I got on a bus, and the first thing that was on was an Eminem song, and they didn't edit any of it. And it was the real Slim Shady. And so it was like sitting there like cussing, and I was like, wow, do they not censor the radio here? And then we got to the hotel, and we turned the TV on, and there was a movie on. There was tits on like the regular TV and stuff. And I was like, wow, they're really relaxed over here when it comes to censorship. So then when I heard about this, I was like, no fucking way. And getting into it, yeah. I mean, even up until I think like 2012 or 2014, they were still trying to push this extreme censorship for movies that didn't necessarily even need it. So yeah, it was,
and one thing about the video nasties that I can understand why they were like, okay, we don't want stuff like this. We don't want to promote, this gore and sexploitation and all this other kind of stuff. But what ended up happening with a lot of these films, right, is like what happened with Prohibition in the United States, where we banned alcohol, so people went and broke the law to go find alcohol.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
And then you get these. I understand, like, if it was untasteful, like if it was just a movie about people walking around like making, snuff porn, or a bunch of people just committing suicide. Like, there's got to be like a plot, a story. They put like a Clockwork Orange on there. I thought that was, okay, cool, I get it because of the drugs and everything. But then you put The Exorcist on that list, and it's like, dude, that was a cult classic, like.
Yeah, that's a whole different, like vein of movies. And so people went and like sought after these things and actually started creating a drive for people to see these because they were bad. They were the ones that you had to hide, kind of thing. And so they got spread around, passed around, and they started developing a whole cult fan base. And with the government going like, oh, well, these make people want to kill and all this other kind of stuff, and these promote people to do bad things. What movie were they watching during the Crusades?
Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of thing. And you start realizing after a while that, first of all, shitty people will be shitty people, kind of thing.
Yes.
But if you actually ban them, what you end up doing is you highlight them. Because now you got to tell everybody these movies are banned. That's free advertisement for those movies. Ooh, those are banned. I want to go see those now.
What's so bad about them? Yeah. Now, one thing, they're actually still doing it, and even worse now. These indie guys, there's like a big indie movement, and I'm kind of like in it a little bit because my movie pushed it in a little lot. But these, like Stephen Biro runs Unearthed Films, and Fred Vogel did August Underground, and there's some people doing some really pushing the envelope stuff, and there's this whole gore thing that they're doing, like you said, with like no plots and just killing stuff, and it's it's pushing the envelope. It makes those look like Sesame Street, those video nasties these days.
Oh god, yeah.
The August Underground stuff is really, really rough. Then you got stuff like Salo, Serbian film.
Steven just picked that up at Unearthed Films. He just picked that one up actually. But like even the Fred Vogel thing though. But like I noticed his new film is pretty straightforward and stuff like that. It's nothing like that. So it's just, I think that even, he's changing up a little bit. But there's a big push for that stuff too, though, at these conventions and stuff. I meet a lot of people that are into that stuff now. And it makes the video nasties look like a sweet movie.
I would like to say that probably the Elijah Wood remake of A Maniac. He plays a serial killer where it's all shot completely from his perspective.
POV.
That was a gruesome film.
Yeah, it was good. He does horror movies now a bunch.
Oh yeah, that may have kicked off this kind of deal. Because we're seeing more and more of like that, individuals willing to push the envelope. It's kind of like it harkens back to the days of like when Hammer Horror kind of pushed back against what was seen here in America, because over there they had the Obscenity Act, but here in America you had the Hays Code. And Hammer Horror was one of the groups that pushed against the code, that deliberately went tried to make stuff that would either be pulled by the code or censored by the code or be demanded to be edited. And it was Hammer Horror predominantly who led the fight against that, and end up getting the Hays Code kind of shelved, and open the door to filmmakers being able to do creatively what they want and tell the stories that they want, and be scary the way they wanted. And so whereas we don't have anything like that today, no censorship courts, or no one's going to go to jail for making a scary movie. But I think it's kind of, we're seeing a resurgence, with Maniac, with August Underground, with the guys who are really, really pushing the boundaries of what is visually arresting. And I don't know, some theories. What are some theories people have is why we're kind of seeing an uptick in this kind of a social
the world's
outcry?
dark. Yeah, I mean, you see worse on your Facebook when they post videos
Yeah,
of
no
American
shit,
soldiers
dude.
getting
Yeah.
their heads cut off. I can take anything fake. You can show me 2 girls in a cup all day, but I don't want to see some dude get his head cut off in real life. You know,
Yeah, fuck that.
Scream.
So this is
for
kind
his
of like
life,
a
so.
reaction, kind of a react.
Well, I'm just
we could
saying
say
that
this
the
is-
world's a dark, nasty place, you guys. It's already been done and thought of. It's this, like I said, the video nasties like inspired these filmmakers to push the thing now, but it's really just Sesame Street compared to what's going on in the real world nowadays. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
hell, you had terrorists blow up a building and kill 5,000 of people. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I mean, it can't get worse than that kind of stuff. You know, there's all the stuff we're seeing now with all these terrorists and stuff. It's just pretty sad.
Well, yeah,
it's a
and you
sad
gotta-
time.
Go ahead.
So we can see the advent of it. So that's an interesting point. We see the advent of it because the difference between the 80s of the video nasty panic in the UK, of the 50s and the 60s horror hammer, the one thing that's missing is the internet.
Yeah,
Yep.
there you go.
Okay.
You're right.
So when things are broadcast the way they are over social media, the way they are over Facebook, over Twitter, that we have access to all of this, it's a virtual library of Babel. We talked about this last week. Just a glut of information. And when you have all of these images coming from all over the world, and they do really showcase how horrifically dark much of the planet really is, and how bad it really still is. And we do kind of live in kind of a gilded cage here in America.
Right.
Okay? So, but all of a sudden the internet's bringing this stuff in. And instead of fighting censorship, instead of pushing the artistic boundaries, now we see the uptick in the same kind of thing, only even more extreme, as a response to kind of a therapeutically or cathartically deal with the shit that's going on outside our doors.
And I think Billy brings up a really good point, talking about how, you know, we watch these movies all day, but you don't want to see somebody get their head cut off in real life. It basically allows you to kind of get the edge of death without actually having the consequences. Because it's like, oh man, we would see somebody ripped in half and mutilated and they're disemboweled and all this other kind of stuff. You can make it as realistic and as gruesome and drawn out as you want, but that little part of your brain knows at the very back that it's fake. And so you can get that with it, okay, it's fake versus real. I don't want to see real. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna drop something I've never said before on a podcast, but this has kind of come, you know, over me the past year or something is you know, when you're young, you try to face your fears and stuff like that. And I'm not a religious person in the sense, atheist if anything, but I think I was always fearful of death, and not so much for me, you know, because I'd always say I don't fear death, you know, bring it on, death. But I think it's that fearing of losing a loved one or a family member, and always fearing of that is what pushed me to horror, to try to say you're facing your fears. And I think subconsciously that's why I've always been taken to that, because I was just trying to, you know, medicate myself a little bit to try to be prepared and to make me a little bit more comfortable with being okay with that kind of stuff. And when it hit home is when my sister passed away in a car wreck in 15. It's like I was always afraid my whole life. I said, I'm going to get a call someday, you know, somebody's going to die in a car wreck. And I worked for the TV station and was a director. And we punched the news all the time. And we had other people that worked for us that's family got in a car wreck, and we covered it there. But, you know, once when my sister passed away, it just, you know, then it's like I didn't want to be fearful anymore. So I think it was when I overcome that is, you know, that. But I really think that I only got into horror when I was young because I was trying to make myself appear tough and, you know, not weak because I could watch this stuff.
Desensitize yourself, essentially.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
So much. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I don't know if I explained that right, but
No, absolutely. It makes
No,
total
absolutely,
sense.
definitely. It's an excellent place, and somewhere we can get the audience involved there. I want to know, and I actually had something else completely different, but Billy kind of inspired me here. I want to know from the audience, what drew you into horror? The reasons that we got into it. I have my reasons that I love it. Eugene, Billy, Alex, we've all got something that drew us into the genre. And we have our favorite parts of the genre, what we really like, what we always fall back on. Ghost stories or slasher killers or evil possessions, or maybe it's just a thriller, you know, like the Babadook or something like that. But we want to know what drew you into it. What was your experience that got you to find solace in the horror genre? We'd love to know. Let us know in the comments. Hit us up at weekinhorror@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your story. Hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your opinion. So with that, let's bring it up a little bit because we have some happy birthdays.
Happy birthday.
Yes.
Yes.
We have a couple birthdays. This week. The first birthday we have is... Actually, you know what? Yeah, Eugene, you take it.
Okay, all right. So the very first birthday we have going on today, he was born February 24th, 1966, right? And it is the amazing Billy Zane, who actually got his start in Back to the Future. I first saw him in a gem of a World War II movie that probably no one's heard of called Memphis Belle, where he plays a tail gun.
Yes,
You've seen it?
Yes, I have.
Movie. Dude, I love that
Fucking
movie.
love that movie.
I grew up on that movie. But he also...
Dude, the whole scene where they get fired into the cockpit and then his fucking thermos explodes.
Yeah.
And they're like, what happened? What happened? Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
It's
the thermos explodes, and it was like a tomato soup thing, but they see blood go everywhere, and they're like, are you bleeding? I'm not bleeding. You have to be bleeding. I'm not bleeding. No, it's you, blah, blah, blah. And it's a thermos. I love yeah.
I'm gonna have to write that down. I'm gonna go watch that one.
Oh, it's a great movie.
Oh yeah, Memphis Belle was fantastic.
Yeah, it didn't do so well in the box office, but I actually caught it. Me and my mom caught it about 7:00 in the morning, and it was towards the end where the plane is trying to land. The plane's like damaged and it's trying to land, and they're cranking the wheel down, and it's like if they don't crank the wheel, then the plane's gonna crash and blow up and kill everybody inside. And so, but they're running out of fuel. They're only down to one engine, so they can't keep flying around. So the pilot has to land while they're cranking this wheel down, hoping he gets it down in time. That's the part I came in at the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it was his second film because he did kick off with Back to the Future. Okay, but it was in '85. But he was in the first Critters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
He started off in Critters. He was also in Tales of the Crypt.
Yes, Demon Knight, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight. The thing is where that I think that kind of put him front and center, with kind of solidified it for the horror community and like that because I thought he was fantastic.
And the thing is, like, I've always been a fan of him. Like, I know he's never been like the super like A-lister kind of thing, like your straight go-to man. He does have a couple of leading roles like in Phantom and stuff like that. But he's always, and like, probably his biggest film will probably always be Titanic, kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, he's done a couple other things too. So he's just been kind of keeping it going. He was in a movie we talked about earlier, a couple of episodes ago, Blood Rain.
Oh
Yeah.
Oof.
That was the best movie ever.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Fucking Oscar winner. Yeah, that's a whole other podcast if we get Billy's take on Uwe Boll films.
He said, no, fuck you.
Yeah, I don't think I've watched too many of them.
No one has.
Yeah, I think Billy has always been, or Billy Zane, sorry, I'm going to differentiate, but I think Zane has always been a stronger supporting actor, as either as part of an ensemble or as kind of backup, because I think a good example was his movie Sniper. It was him and Tom Berenger, and Berenger is a lead actor. That guy can lead something, okay. But the story was the Billy Zane character it's centered around him, and then Tom Berenger was the gruff veteran who was like trying to teach the young rookie and shit like that. But it didn't play well. I think he's stronger when he's not having to carry a film or maintain the screen time. He's good. Just kind of like Kevin Costner. When Kevin Costner leads, you can see his ego coming a mile away. But when he's in the background, when he's supporting, he's just doing the back. He's always good. He always lets go. He's always strong. When it doesn't have to be him that's in the camera all the time. So I think Billy it's not an ego thing. I just think Billy's stronger when he's not having to lead. When he's able to have fun, like in Tombstone.
Yeah.
Because he was the theater actor, exactly. When he just gets to kind of go in there, do a role, have fun with the role, and then go,
Oh yeah, I agree. Kind of just a great supporting actor. You surround him with good talent, he's going to go and reach that level. But you got to surround him with it.
Gotta give him the good shit, man.
And the good shit. Exactly. So, just want to shout out, happy birthday, Billy Zane.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Woo.
And we got one more, right?
Yep.
Hell yeah, we do. Got February 29th, 1948. Ken Foree was born. Foree!
Yes.
Wow, dude. He was born on the 29th?
Yeah, does he have a birthday this year then?
What's that make him? 16?
February 29th, 1948. What did I say it wrong?
No, there's
no,
only
it has to be a
28
leap
days
year.
most
No,
of the
there's
time.
only 28
Leap
days,
year.
so...
Oh, shit, yeah. God, look at that. February 29th. Got it. I'm on board. Man.
I just guess I threw a number out there. I'm assuming because 1948. I don't know. 1948 divided by 4 is 1. So what is he? 12?
12?
Happy 12th birthday.
God, yeah, he played the, for those of you who don't know, there's the first time I ever saw him was the, fuck, I'm going to fuck this up, televangelist on Dawn of the Dead. The 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead.
The Zack Snyder remake.
Yeah. Like right at the beginning when he's talking about hell spilling over onto Earth.
Yeah, there's no more room in hell.
Y'all sinned so fucking much. There ain't no more room.
So I wanted to ask if you guys knew this. Did you know that Ken Foree actually has his own horror festival?
Yes, started in 2007
yeah.
in UK.
Like just
Titled
for him?
4E Fest.
4E Fest.
Yeah,
Yep.
I didn't know that. I haven't been invited to that one, but I actually know him from the original Dawn of the Dead, which he had a big major part in. Which, if you haven't seen, you should watch the original Dawn of the Dead. It is actually a great movie.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
yeah.
he was good in that. Yeah, he definitely.
Him and Flyboy.
The one thing I dig the most about watching Ken, I mean, the cat is just horror royalty.
Yes.
Ever since the Dawn of the Dead, he was in an episode of Kojak before he was in it, which is pretty cool. Imagining him on screen with Telly Savalas is pretty slick. Fuck, I'm showing my age right there. But Billy, Billy knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I rubbed one off the Kojak too.
Yeah, like Alex and Eugene are gonna be watching Kojak.
No, you know, it was the 70s, man. It was weird times. Saw some shit.
But one thing I dig about Ken is no matter what, because he's a big dude and he's rather imposing, but he's always been every single time, and he's one of those. For an actor with a career like his, it'd be very, very easy to get pigeonholed into a specific role, archetype, where he pretty much just plays the same thing over and over again. But every time I see Ken on screen, he's able to do something just to bring a nuance to every single one of his characters. I've always been curious. I'd love to be able to ask him his approach, because he always brings something a little bit new, then he builds upon that new thing and makes it a completely different character. So whether or not, it's something like, when he was in the original Dawn of the Dead, when he was Peter Washington in the original Dawn of the Dead, and then he was the televangelist in the Zack Snyder remake, but then he was the pimp in Devil's Rejects.
Yeah, Devil's Rejects.
Okay? But then he was like Joe Grizzly in the Halloween remake.
Yup.
Okay? Whatever he does, he brings something a little bit new every single time. And I love watching what he does with these roles, because anybody could look at these roles and be like, oh, this is kind of one-dimensional, this is two-dimensional, there's not a lot of meat here, so I'll just kind of do the archetype thing. No, he makes it into something with meat. And it just makes him a fucking joy to watch on screen.
And I mean, that's why he's been able to hit in terms of like looking at some of the TV shows he's been on. He's been on like Knight Rider, Cheers, Dallas. He's able to go and take this wide variety of roles. He was in the X-Files. He's able to take those wide variety of roles in wide variety genres and do something with it.
And he has never shied away from horror, which I love.
Yeah, he was in a few things that, weren't horror. Like, he was in Water for Elephants, and there's another movie I had in the top of my head I can't remember, but, he didn't just do the horror genre either. He played everything fantastically.
He spread it out. I know he's in his newest one. He's in that new one, John Henry, with Terry Crews.
Which one?
There's a movie coming out called John Henry, which is kind of a retelling of the John Henry legend. Only kind of like I guess it takes place in the hood or like this, but starring Terry Crews as John Henry.
Of course, Terry Crews is John Henry.
It's got Terry Crews and Ludacris in it, and Luda, and but Ken will be starring in that one as well.
That's
Nice.
too bad.
Looking forward to that. Man, 48 and 50, 60, 70. It's getting up there.
But yeah, it's
Still pushing.
awesome. You know, like I said, horror royalty.
Big time.
Love his fucking movies, and I just, you know, whenever he shows up, and I definitely have to check out. I love that fucking line. One of my favorite scenes, just when he jumps up in Michael Myers' face. Big Dro Grizzly, bitch. And I was like, yes! I'm gonna cut that mask right off your face. Oh man, I fucking love him. He brings so much to it.
Hell yeah. Fucking keep them coming, Ken. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Ken. Well, that wraps up this week's Week in Horror. Now, I want to give a very special thanks to Billy Pond for joining us. Billy, do you have anything you'd like to plug or tease for the listeners before we close this out?
Well, if you want to check out my movie, we just signed a new deal by a new distribution company, so it'll be available everywhere on VOD pretty soon, Circus of the Dead. But in the meantime, you can get a hard copy at circusofthedeadmovie.com.
Nice.
Excellent.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, that wraps it up. I want to thank our listeners. As always, we would not be here without you. Any feedback, comments, questions, concerns, whatever, drop us a line at weekinhorror@gmail.com. You can grab our podcast on any platform you could possibly think of. Anchor, Spotify. We're on iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, everywhere. Go check us out. Grab us there. Subscribe. Go check out our patreon.com/weekinhorror. That's where you're going to get our bloodbath, where we take two horror icons and pit them together in a battle to the death. And then we will be sitting down after the show here with Billy Pond. You can catch that. Our After Dark is also on our Patreon. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/weekinhorror. Get your daily splatter there, a little bit of horror history every single day. And we are now on Twitter, so if you'd like to interact with us on there, we are just at weekinhorror on Twitter. Thanks, guys, so much for listening. Again, we wouldn't be here without you.
Thank you so much. This is JL.
I'm Alex.
And this is Eugene signing off.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.